Since we had you on last, Martin, Paul and Fintan have won Olympic gold. They were crowned World Rowing Men's Crew of the Year. They reunited to win European gold last month and extend their winning run, and they just seem to be getting better and better and better. The body of evidence is pretty compelling right now. But is this what we've come to expect from the Skibbereen Dream Team, that together Paul O'Donovan and Fintan McCarthy win rowing races and they win gold?
Yeah, I think I mean, when I reflect on what they've done, I go to that amazing race that they won Olympic gold in, and I think that was sensational because they were matched against a phenomenal crew from Germany, and Jason Osborne, the stroke man of that crew, I mean, he's made a seamless transition into professional cycling for a professional team. The Alpecin Desayuna quick step, and he was such an amazing athlete, both on the bike and on the water, and they were just level like this, neck and neck, and then Paul and Fintan just sort of went ahead in the final bit, and really that was a race worthy of the title of winning an Olympic gold medal. There is nobody of that standard to race Paul and Fintan now. Mm-hmm. There is nobody of Jason Osborne's standards. All of the doubles that will be in the World Championships that are coming up next week are doubles that Paul and Fintan have beaten, and they can't compete in the second half of the course with the kind of pace that Paul and Fintan have got. Mm-hmm. We saw in the European Championships the way that the Irish double just blasted through in the third and the fourth 500 meters and just moved out from the field, moved out from a great field. The Italians are really, really strong double. They scull beautifully together. This new Swiss combination of Schaubeli and Ireland, a great new double, but they can't compete over the second half of the course. And I think even the crews coming in from places like New Zealand and Australia just don't have the endurance that the Irish do over that second 1,000 meters. So when you take a look down at the entries, you kind of go, well, there's only one crew that's going to win gold here, and that is Fintan and Paul.
I think what's remarkable about the Europeans, Martin, is the fact that Paul and Fintan, I think, were together almost a handful of times this year alone before they came back in the boat for the Europeans. They were both in the singles, and then Paul he was in work placement in Australia for a small bit, but they were reunited in the double for the Europeans, and they won gold, and they won it by, I think, almost 4 seconds from that Italian crew. And we'd Fintan on the podcast after that, and he said he was even kind of surprised by their winning margin. It was one of their biggest winning margins. So when you consider where they are now, having not been together in the boat that much, and they're still winning big gold medals by clear water at this stage, is there any glimmer of hope for any of the other crews out there?
There's always a glimmer of hope. I mean, things happen in rowing. At the Olympics in Tokyo, one of the doubles that was racing Paul and Fintan actually flipped over and capsized. A number of the crews, if the conditions are rough, you can catch your blades on the water. It's called catching a crab, and that slows the boat down. But these are kind of outside things that the opposition will be looking, that before the Irish, in terms of if it's really decent conditions, nice flat conditions, there isn't anybody that can compete in the second half. Look, I saw Paul O'Donovan race in the single scull at Lucerne on the Rothsee. And, what he did there to win that race was phenomenal. I mean, the stroke rating per minute is quite important. But he was rating something like 50 strokes a minute. And I thought, that's crazy. How can this guy that has obviously been doing his medical training, how can he still have the base endurance to go that hard at the end of a race? And he did. And then when you consider that that Fintan, when he raced Paul, actually beat Paul, You see, Fintan is improving. Fintan has improved from the Olympics up in 2021 till now. He's getting better. I think he was getting better from when the Olympics were postponed to 2021. I think he's now a better athlete in 2022 than he was in 2021. So you put that together and you've got a very formidable package.
That's actually a great point, Martin, because we talk so much about Paul, and we're going to talk about him again quite soon. But the improvement of Fintan over the last couple of years has been so noticeable as well. Like you mentioned there, at the Irish Rowing Championships during the summer, Fintan took home two single scull titles, and he actually beat Paul in one of the races, which was I think a very big moment for Fintan. But he's really stepped up and he's getting better, and he's really driving this boat on as well. And I think that's very noticeable from the outside too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really noticeable because I think initially, I don't know whether Fintan would have been a bit starry-eyed. I think when he came into the sport initially, obviously, you know, his rowing heroes were Paul and Gary. And I think he's kind of got used to being in the spotlight. Mm-hmm. Also, I think the time that Paul's spending on his medical studies has given Fintan a chance. He was in the single scull in the Poznan World Cup. He didn't win that. He came second, but it was a great race. And it's given him a chance to stand out on his own and to shine. And I think also, you know, there is good competition within the winter for those places in the Irish lightweight men's double scull. And so he's really relished that, and he's increased his physiology. He's got better. His endurance is better. His technique I thought in the single, his technique is looking great. And I think all of those things add in to make this, you know, to enable that double to go as fast as it did in the Europeans.
And obviously then there's Paul O'Donovan. If that Irish double wins gold, as we think it might, Martin, that will be his 5th world gold medal. He has 3 European golds. He's Olympic gold 2 and Olympic silver. We spoke about it before when you were on the podcast last. I think you described him as a force of nature, but he's just an incredible athlete. Like, in terms of world rowing, where is Paul right now?
Well, I think Paul is right at the top of world rowing. I would say there are a few athletes to maybe contend for his title. Maybe if I think of male athletes, there are 2 Croatians, the Sinkovic brothers. They won the double sculls gold medal in Rio, so they each had 2 blades. And then they said, right, we're going to change back into a pair, just 1 blade each, and they won the pairs title in Tokyo. That was a remarkable achievement. So those 2 guys are right at the top. Alongside them is Paul. Particularly, I think, and in some ways they're quite similar. They're very good in terms of public relations. They have a really good outward-facing look. They project, you know, a great image for the sport. And I would put Paul up there with the Croatians as one of the top athletes in world rowing. Whether Paul would be at the apex, I think that we'll have to see. I think, you know, there's the World Championships this year. I think Paul probably needs to make sure he wins the World Championships this year, the World Championships next year, and then the Olympic gold, and then he would be right at the top of the pyramid. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And the reason I say that, Kieran, is because the Croatians, the Sinkovic brothers, are open weight. They don't have to worry about being, as Paul does, weighing in at 71 kilos, watching his diet, watching his nutrition. He's kind of got an added handicap in that sense because he has to weigh in at that level. So that makes his achievement all the more great. I think in terms of personalities in world rowing, I would say Paul O'Donovan is the #1 personality in world rowing. He looks very different now, doesn't he, with his long hair. He has such an aggressive style of racing. He has done so well in the double. They are so cohesive and they are so good over the second half. I mean, I remember at the Europeans, the president of world rowing, Jean-Christophe Rolland, who himself is an Olympic gold medalist, and he's an important guy. He's on the International Olympic Committee. he was there when the athletes came in to get their medals. And what he wanted on his mobile phone a picture of Paul O'Donovan. They were being interviewed and he wanted to take a picture of Paul. That's because this guy is such an amazing personality. So, the world of rowing is much better because Paul is in it.
And it's a drum I've been beating for a long time in the Southern Star, Martin, just how good Paul is and almost what he's done for rowing on and off the water. Like, he's been a game changer here in Ireland in terms of that 2016 Olympic silver with Gary. That proved Irish rowers can win Olympic medals. And now, obviously, Paul and Fintan won gold and the Ireland women's 4 won bronze at the Olympics last year. But it's what he's done on the water as well. But it's tried to get people to understand that rowing is a very, very hard sport. And for Paul to do what he's done for the last, 5, 6, 7 years, it's just incredible longevity, but it just shows how talented the man is as well.
Yeah, I think so. And, credit to their coach, Dominic Casey. I think the training program he sets them is fearsome, and they have proved equal to every test that he's thrown at them. And some of the outings, some of the sessions that they've done, I think Fintan, I heard recently talking about a session where they did in Spain. They did 8 times 2,000 meters. 2,000 meters is the distance for the race, and they were being competitive for these 8 times 2,000 meters with another crew. And they measured their lactic acid. That's how much the body produces, and you kind of look for a figure of maybe 9 or 10 in that millimoles in that kind of racing. Well, Fintan made, his lactic acid that he was producing was 18 millimoles, which is a phenomenal amount to actually be able to do those 8 times 2,000 meters. It just shows you, that they are equal to the training that Dominic Casey has set them, and brilliantly set up with the technique. And it's a real credit to the whole system and setup around Skibbereen and in the wider Irish rowing community that they've managed to do what they've done, and also to inspire others, like you mentioned, the Irish Women's 4, just to come through. And, and I think there are more on the way.
It's been an incredible success story these last couple of years, and obviously the Paris Olympics won't be too far away, and Paul and Fintan Touchwood will be there as well. But just to ask you as well, Martin, I read an interview with Fintan there in the last week or so when he was looking at life after the Paris Olympics and the possibility of himself and Paul stepping up the heavyweight and taking on the big boys. Is that something you could see them doing?
Yeah, there's precedent for that. In the Barcelona Olympics of 1992, there was an Australian double with one of my good friends, Peter Anthony, in it. And they effectively, the 2 of them were lightweights, and they stepped up to heavyweights, and they won that gold medal in 1992 Olympics. So there is a precedent. I think there's certainly speed to be gained from not having to be on weight. Fintan has to weigh in at 69 kilos. Paul has to weigh in at 71 kilos. So they could go up to 75, 76, even, going 79, 80 kilos. That would give them some extra bulk. If that was in terms of muscle bulk, that will give them some extra pace to allow them to compete. They've got to compete with those 2 Croatians, the Sinkovic brothers. I mean, so in other words, and that would be, I would pay a lot of money to see that race. I'd pay a lot of money in the 2028 Olympics, if lightweight doubles aren't in that and they go heavyweight, I'd pay a lot of money to see the Croatians versus the Irish. Man, that would be some contest.
Have we got it confirmed yet that the lightweight double is gone from the Olympic schedule after Paris? I know there's been a lot of talk about it, but thankfully it is there for Paris. But has it been confirmed yet, Martin? Or is there even a chance maybe that we could have it in the 2028 Olympics?
Yeah, well, we thought that Paris would have coastal rowing instead of lightweight rowing. That was proved not to be the case. It's said it's likely that coastal rowing will replace lightweight rowing in Los Angeles, but that's not been confirmed yet. So if you're taking bets on it, the likelihood is that it's going to be coastal rowing, beach sprints is the format that they call it. So I think probably the likelihood is that if Paul and Fintan want to carry on, they will have to go open weight, and that will be a great challenge for them. I'm sure they'll appreciate that challenge.
And before they can even think about that, it's about the Worlds in the Czech Republic next week. And my final question for you is the fact that these two lads together have won every race in their last 5 international regattas. They've won gold in each of those 5 regattas. Is there only going to be one result if everything sticks to form in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, I think, there are 2 or 3 categories of nailed on favourites, and one of the strongest is the lightweight men's double sculls. In terms of predictions, I do predictions with a group of, really knowledgeable former international rowers and coaches. There's about 7 or 8 of us, and we do our predictions for who's going to win the gold medal. I can guarantee you nobody will have anything different other than Ireland for lightweight men's double scull. They are nailed on, barring very rough conditions, barring an upset, barring an outside agency, which I don't see happening. They will win another World Championship gold medal.
Exciting times for Irish rowing and exciting times for Skibbereen. Thank you so much again, Martin.
Been a pleasure.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with Access Credit Union and the Donal O'Driscoll Student Bursary. The Donal O'Driscoll Student Bursary has been established to honour the career and achievements of Access Credit Union's late CEO, Donal O'Driscoll. Throughout his long term as CEO, Donal championed the credit union ethos of supporting and empowering members, particularly in the sphere of education. In recognition of this, the Donal O'Driscoll Bursary will provide financial support to one individual embarking on third-level education or commencing an apprenticeship in 2022. The recipient of the bursary will be awarded €5,000 to help with costs. To apply for the bursary, visit www.accesscu.ie/bursary.